Hey YouTube, welcome to another Valkyrie Connect video. My name is Hakeo, and in this video we'll be going over the Bestla Connect battle. We'll go over the mechanics of the Connect boss, go over some items and units that you can use in the Connect battle. For this video, I chose to make it as budget friendly as possible, so I will be primarily focusing on Balder instead of Erd, since we know Erd is more of the ideal healer, but not everyone is able to own her versus having Balder. The first thing we'll go over is Bestla's SP weapon. With the Bestla tokens, you can purchase either her souls or her SP weapon. Her SP weapon deals light damage and applies Reckoning for 2 turns to the nearest enemy. Remember that Reckoning is a debuff that turns all heals to 0 instead of the amount that it was meant to heal, and light damage over time to the applied target. Next, we'll go over the crystals for Bestla as well as her abilities. With her crystals, the reason why I chose to show all 4 crystals is that you have to keep in mind the position of each crystal. We'll start with the positions of each of the crystals as well as Bestla. The way the Connect is oriented is Bestla is the front unit, followed by the physical crystal, which is the force crystal, the magic crystal, the force crystal behind that one in the range row, and the magic crystal being the last one in the range row. The reason why this is important is because if you have an item that hits X nearest target or the X farthest unit, if it's not the correct damage type, you won't deal any damage to that crystal. For example, Genocide Outfit deals dark damage to the front 2 units. That will include Bestla and the force crystal. Genocide Outfit deals physical damage, so you'll be dealing 0 damage to that crystal. This is why positioning is important, and choice of gear as well as gear slot is important as well. The last thing that I want to go over is that the crystals are divided into 2 sections, the melee row and the range row. That's important to keep in mind when you're using items that hit the farthest row or the closest row. Next up, we'll be going over Bestla's action skill and auto skill. Her action skill applies a magic defense buff to herself and the crystals while dealing light damage and reckoning to the 2 nearest units. Remember that reckoning only applies to humans, elves, Jotuns, and beasts. Her auto ability is an AoE ability that removes barriers, deals light damage, applies Reckoning and Gravity to all units in the Connect battle. Remember that Reckoning only applies to humans, elves, Jotuns, and beasts, and the removed barrier applies to units such as Luca and Heimdall, so they will not be as effective in this Connect battle. Next up, we'll be going over some example items that you can use in the Connect battle. We'll start with Darkwing Staff, Yggdrasil Blade, Grimoire of Accusation, and Wicked Bow. Our single target items, Lunar Cane, Dusk, Calamity Bow, and Lotus Staff. The armor and accessories will be Guardian Turban, Hearthstone, Bengal Defense, and a light resistance ring. Darkwing Staff is one of the more important items in this Connect battle due to its base stats of HP and magic attack, and it also deals magic dark damage, which is something that you'll definitely need throughout this fight. Finding dark physical damage is easier than finding magic attack dark damage that will reach the crystals that you're trying to hit. The next item is Yggdrasil Blade, which applies a skill gauge up and speed up to the 2 nearest units. Not only does it do that, it hits the nearest row, which allows you to reach the magic crystal that you're trying to destroy. Grimoire of Accusation, similar to Yggdrasil Blade, will hit the nearest row, but instead of dealing physical damage, it will deal magic damage, allowing you to hit the physical crystal and destroy it. Wicked Bow, like Darkwing Staff, will hit the 3 nearest targets, allowing you to reach the magic crystal and destroy it. Next up, we have our single target items. They are just as important as the multi-hitting items, because once you destroy the crystals, you want high DPSing items to take Bestla out of that phase so you can enter the next one as quick as possible. Lunar Cane, Dusk, and Calamity Bow are pretty self-explanatory, for they single target the unit and try to deal as much DPS as possible. The only difference between Lunar Cane, Dusk versus Calamity Bow is that Calamity Bow will start from the back and move its way up, which helps you Crystal Crush. Lotus Flower is one of the odd items in this bunch, mainly because it's an earth damaging item, but when using units that don't have gravity resistance, you need to find a way to compensate for the lack of skill gauge. A way to do that is to either boost the speed of the unit, apply quick to the unit, or give it skill gauge up. The last row I'll be speaking about is the armor and accessories row. Hearthstone and Bengal Defense are pretty self-explanatory since they raise the defense of the target, and they help you cap the 50% physical defense buff. The other item is the light resistance ring. Light resistance ring are specific to the race in which you can equip them to, so you'll have to find which ones your units will need, and they are to combat the holy field that the crystals pulse out during the Connect battle. The other item is Guardian Turban. Guardian Turban helps combat Reckoning effect. If you use units like Ronko, who's human, she'll be affected by Reckoning, but using the Guardian Turban, 1, it ups her HP by 30%, and evasion, which may or may not dodge some attacks. The HP up isn't affected by Reckoning's debuff, so you'll be able to get the full effect from it. Next up, we'll be going over some example units that you can use in the Connect battle. Keep in mind, I try to keep it as budget friendly as possible. There are other units that you can use that are more premium, and they may be better for the Connect battle versus the ones I've listed. We'll start out with the tanks and healers. We have Awakened Scold, Gazer, Boulder, and Erd. Awakened Scold is a good tank mainly because you can go more DPS oriented since she is a high light resistance unit. And 2, she's awakened, so her stats are a little bit higher than the non-awakening form. Gazer, on the other hand, is a dark unit, so he will need more defensives, but overall he can provide more utility for your team since his ability applies a shield to your entire team. And since both the tanks are Azers, they won't be affected by Reckoning, and 2, they both have gravity field, so they won't be affected by the gravity debuff effect either. Next, we'll be going over the healers. Erd is pretty self-explanatory. She's pretty much the perfect unit for this Connect battle in terms of healing. She has the gravity field, she has highlight resistance, she's an Azer so she avoids Reckoning, and she is able to heal outside of her ability with her X and SP item. Balder, on the other hand, is not as fortunate to have gravity field. He has eclipse field, so he will be affected by the gravity slow effect. And 2, if you weren't available or you weren't playing during the time when April Fools was an event, you may not have his costume either. His costume allows you to heal outside of his ability. If you don't have this costume, it is still doable to do Bestla, but it'll be much harder. You may have to compensate by either giving your units a regen item or a way to get Balder's skill gauge up frequently enough to be able to heal throughout the entire fight. Next up, we have our DPS units. We have Michelle, Yatsure, Petra, and Halloween Niji. Michelle and Petra have very high light resistance, meaning you can use dark items that will get reflected and they won't deal as much damage to them. Yatsure and Halloween Niji are quite the opposite. They're dark units with lower light resistance. Next, we have Mani, Genesis Ymir, Hugin, and Ronko. All of these units have gravity resistance besides Genesis Ymir. The reason why Genesis Ymir may be advantageous to you is because he will ignore all of the barriers and deals direct damage to the crystals, as well as Bestla. Mani and Hugin are pretty self-explanatory. They'll be able to deal back damage to the crystals. They deal magic damage and physical damage respectively. Ronko is a good choice too, but keep in mind that she will be affected by Reckoning. She'll be able to randomly hit the crystals, meaning she may or may not deal damage to the right crystals. The upside to that is if you're able to destroy the crystals quick enough, her 3 attacks will stack on top of Bestla. You should be able to keep her alive if you use items such as Guardian Turban and cap her physical defense with Hearthstone and Bango of Defense. To recap everything, keep in mind that it is doable to beat Bestla with Balder. It will just be very difficult since he does not have gravity field resistance, and if you don't own his costume, it'll be that much more difficult to survive Bestla. A way around that is to give either shields or regen effects to the units that you feel will not survive throughout the fight, meaning the ones with low light resistance. Another thing to keep in mind is that the crystals are placed in a specific order, so you may have to choose the correct items at a specific slot to be able to make the most use of it. For example, if you have an item like Genocide Outfit where it hits the 2 nearest units, which will be Bestla and the Force Crystal, you won't be able to deal any damage. But if you put that in slots 3 or 4 later on into the fight, then you may be able to hit the Magic Crystal if you have your slots 1 and 2 with magic damaging items such as Darkwing Staff, Grimoire of Accusation. One last thing to emphasize is the importance of Darkwing Staff. It is a very good item for this Connect battle, and it's a great way to get rid of all the Force Crystals as soon as possible, and so you can start focusing on just the Magic Crystals with units such as Hugin, Ronko, Michelle, or whoever you choose to use with a physical damaging property. What you'll be seeing in the video is my worst successful run with Bestla using Boulder, and the worst after that is me not completing the Connect battle in general. Usually I don't have any of the units die, and I generally will beat the Connect battle with roughly about 20 seconds left. It may not be the most ideal setup, but just know that it is doable for those who don't own Erd. And if you like the video, please like the video. If you like this type of content, please subscribe. And if you aren't already involved in the Valkyrie Connect community, I'll provide a link to the Reddit and Discord below. If you aren't already following me on Twitter, I'll provide a link to that below as well, just to see what I've been up to in the game and some Japanese side client news. If anyone has any suggestions, just post it in a comment below so others can also get that information as well. Until next time guys, take care.